Welcome back, YouTube. As you could have seen from my intro, I've set myself up in the woods today. I made a video about 18 months ago on making the most out of nature for wildlife hides and how inexpensive it can be to give you such a versatile format for wildlife photography hides. Now in this case it's a £20 poncho. Well, it was £20 when I bought it 3 years ago, but I will leave a link in the description below for Amazon if anyone's interested. I'll leave the video I made about the poncho at the end of this video. And the reason why I've set myself up here is because there's a game trail that runs in front about 100 foot away, thereabouts. And it doesn't have much footfall because the leaf litter is not kicked. But I do notice, or had noticed, there were some deer prints along that track. And that's what I thought 18 months ago when it was winter and I was here, that it was quite trodden. I'm hoping that they will wander through this way, maybe somewhere. I'm hoping that they'll still use this route to work its way through and not the fields as it starts to get dark. It can see through into the fields. And I noticed 18 months ago that they headed out of these woods and across the tip of that field. So I'm hoping, as I've seen the deer this afternoon far down in the 3 fields down, heading this way towards the woods, I'm hoping that this will still be their through route as the day gets on. Now it is 20 past 3, so I've got a good 3¼ hours of daylight left. After I've done this piece to camera, I will be dropping the volume down, probably going into whisper mode. Now I've already seen the buzzards today. I was calling them, I heard them in the distance when I was beginning to set up, so I was calling them, and then within about 10 minutes they were right above the tree, nice and low circling. I think hopefully the footage here is from a mobile phone. Hopefully it's clear enough to show. I do always love seeing the buzzards. So you saw me set the poncho up, a bit of paracord, a couple of clips, and the lens of my camera pushed through the headpiece of the poncho. I've got full movement, so wherever they come from, hopefully we'll get some footage of them. Something else I've started doing recently is every day I come out, I make a note of all the wildlife that I've seen, whether it's he's in the tree. Literally in the tree. I can literally see him there. He's the other side of this holly bush. I'm sure if I can see him, he can see me. You probably heard him land. And off he goes. That was awesome. Wish I could have filmed it. I'm hoping you heard him. I don't think the angle of that would have picked him up on the camera. He's off again, calling. So as I was saying, yeah, I start every day I go out, I am just making a note of all the animals I see, just because I got to the stage where I keep thinking I'm not actually seeing anything. But then when I actually write it down, at the end of a couple of weeks, you look at it and you go, actually, I've seen the buzzard 4 times. I've seen roe deer, fallow deer, and you start going through the blackbirds, the blue tits, and then it starts quite adding up. You forget that I think you spend so much time looking at this wildlife that you become a bit blasé and you start thinking that you're not seeing anything because you're not seeing anything either new or epic. And I think for me, part of that reason is that we went to Scandinavia last year, so we saw the musk oxen, wild reindeer, sperm whales, wolverines, brown bear. So we saw these big exotic animals that, for me, they're exotic. And then you come home and you want to say just the standard deer, but I think that's just because I've been filming and photographing the deer for so many years. Although they're always nice to see, I do feel they are very common ground for me now. Now I've been asked 3 times in the last 3 weeks what got me into wildlife photography, what got me into doing YouTube videos, etc. And I thought it was a good question because everybody's got their own story, everyone's got their own journey. For me, I've just always been an outdoor person. Even as a kid, you know, you'd generally find me in the garden, whether it was digging holes, making tents, making camp. And as soon as I was old enough to venture away from home, it was, you know, camping in the woods under a tarp with my friends. And my whole life, I guess, has kind of been like that. Now, when I was a kid, Mum said, you know, sorry, I thought I saw something in the field. My mother had said that I had dug up some earthworms and found that they were dirty, so I was sucking them clean and then putting them back in the earth. And I think she also said she caught me licking or, does it again, cleaning a slug, which would probably explain why I don't like mushrooms these days. But I was into photography, kind of always have been to a certain degree, and up until from about 2005 to about 2010, I'd got quite into my photography. I had joined a camera club, a local camera club to me, and I let it slide again after kind of 2013, I guess, thereabouts. But in 2015, the wife and I travelled around the UK. We did kind of Land's End to John O'Groats, everything in between, for about 3.5 months. We covered about 12,500 miles. And when we got as far as Scotland or up into Scotland, all of a sudden bombarded with wildlife. So much more than I'd ever gotten used to down here on the south coast. And that really flared my interest for it again. So when we came back down south in August, I purchased myself a Canon 70D, which is a cropped sensor digital SLR, and the Sigma 150 to 500. I became obsessed with the wildlife again. So I guess really for the last 10 years, come August, I've been back into my wildlife. Now over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, it's become much more for me because it made me realise how much it gets me outdoors, and I really need that in my life. I'm a man of the dirt. I'm never as happy as when I'm knees deep in the mud. Now the reason for the YouTube videos is that, one, it would be nice if it made me an income. It would be nice if I could do this full time. You know, whether that will work or not, I don't know. But the biggest reason for me making these videos is that now I'm in my early 50s, and I look back at old kind of 8-track movies or cinema movies that my parents made of me when I was a child, that I really want these to look back on when I'm retired and I have got all these trips, all these excursions, all these holidays, all this wildlife, and it will just be a really nice thing to look back on when my body doesn't allow me to exercise as much as I do now. In the winter months when it's cold and wet and I'm wedged under a blanket with a cup of cocoa, I can sit and watch videos that I made 25 years previously and hopefully reminisce with fond memories as opposed to, you know, feelings of regret that I did more. This, for me, is video proof that I have been out and done that. I had a tattoo put on my arm some years ago that just simply states, choose to be inspired and adventure will find you. No truer word has been spoken, and I try and live by that. Right, well, I'm going to have a cup of coffee and then wedge myself, drop the volume down, and hopefully over the next 3 hours catch some wildlife. Just a quick check-in. It's now 4:25, so I've been sat here for an hour, and other than the beautiful sounds, haven't seen anything yet. There's so much going on. Skylarks, chiff-chaffs, blue tits, a pheasant, and a bumblebee that seems to be hanging around here. I'm not sure which bee it is that lives in the ground, but it may be one of those. He really is hanging around by the root of this fallen ash tree. Oh, well, let's change your battery. Woodpecker in the distance. Now the temperature's definitely dropped. We're very overcast now, and we were expecting that. And I think there was a 5% or 7% chance of rain. But I think it's time to put an extra layer on. Maybe even put my woolly hat on. Maybe a jacket. But definitely time for a cup of coffee and a chocolate bar. Just to keep me going. I can hear something squealing. I'm hoping it's a tool over at one of the farms a few fields away. If it's not, I'm a bit worried what it is. Maybe it's Bigfoot calling. I have wondered if he's in these woods. 5:30 update. Nothing seen. Plenty heard, but nothing seen. Got about an hour before sunset. Fingers crossed. Well, I've just seen something. I don't know whether we have stoats or weasels down here in West Sussex. But first of all, I thought it was a squirrel. But it was a lot longer and a lot thinner. And it was kind of a darkish brown. Kind of like a pine marten colour. But we don't get pine martens down here on the south coast. I have no idea what it was. It was off to the side. There was no chance of filming it. It was fleeting. It caught my glance and it jumped up onto a bit of dead tree, ran along it and then down the other side. Definitely wasn't a squirrel. Definitely. I don't know what it was. If anybody knows, leave in the comments below. I'd love to know what we get down here. I've never seen a stoat of a weasel ever, other than in like a wildlife park or a zoo. Don't know what it was. Well, I've just looked it up. Sunset is at 6:22, and now it's 6:24. So officially, we're past sunset. Haven't seen anything yet. I think between the Action 4 and the EOS R, we've got possibly another half an hour of filming. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that last half an hour. Now temperature's dropped, it's about 11, 12 degrees I think. But I am beginning to feel the cold. We're quite overcast, so it might get darker quicker than I was expecting. In case you wondered why I've got headphones on, it's not because I'm listening to music, it's because I have it plugged in to the EOS R, so that when I'm filming with my microphone, the sound is so much more immersive. If anybody else does film and doesn't have their ears plugged in, just try it. I did it first with my earbuds, my Apple earbuds. And these are my editing headphones. And when I'm actually filming with these on, the sound is so different. It really is. Right, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the next 30 minutes or so. I'll be back. Right, it's now 7:15. My eyes can't see anything. The camera is getting the smallest amount. So I think it's time to call it a day and head home. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Dance while the record spins. No, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's as much about being out as it is about actually capturing those images. Well, it's just gone 7 and my eyes can see no more. And the eels are struggling now. So if anything does come out, I'm not seeing it. So I'm going to call it a day and head home for some dinner. Now I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's as much about the experience of coming out as it is about actually photographing the wildlife. So although I've filmed nothing, photographed nothing other than a bit of drone footage of the deer, that's okay. I've had the chance to play around, put in the net, hide up, and I've sat here for nearly 5 hours just enjoying nature and with the anticipation of maybe filming something or photographing something. And that's it for me. It's the potential of it all that I'm absolutely glued to. If you've liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe, I'd love you to. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.